Welcome to the January 2026 World Predictions. Let's see what the cards have in store for us for the month of January around the world. At the end, I may have a look at some of the other predictions that came up in December and see if any of those have come to pass. But for now, let's get into the reading. I'm going to do a shoot down view of my hand so you can look at the cards and see what you think is coming in 2026 because of the cards on the table. Please do let me know. Also, let me know what happens in your part of the world. I'll record it here in the comments and I will read it at the end of next month's video because I'm not up on what's going on all over the world. So if there's something significant that happens that's related to the cards or the predictions, please do let me know. So some of the headlines we'll see in January 2026 around the world. We see Russia, perhaps even a war in the headlines. Now on the back of that one is something to do with the East, or it could just be the Russia war sparking up or in the headlines over January. First card on the table is let's read the little ones first. We've got endings coming up, past endings, something that's been going on for a long time will be coming to an end. Also, important to note, we're going into a one-year cycle. We're ending a cycle in 2025. Today's date is the 29th of December that I'm reading this reading, and sometimes the prophecies become active from the day I do the reading. I will try to get this reading up by the 31st of December. So here we have ending of a cycle. We're going into a year one next year, but I do feel like something that is been going on for a long time related to the past will be coming to an end. Could be connected to wars somehow or battles. Over in the corner over here we have Taiwan. Taiwan, is that what it's called? Making an appearance in the news, perhaps seeking some kind of freedom from China. Maybe they're in the headlines. Maybe there's something going on around warships in the waters around Taiwan. Okay, military plane is the first card. So something to do with military planes. Could be connected to Russia, could be connected to Taiwan. Something fake news is coming up. Now, is that a connection to Donald Trump and Russia in the headlines? Somehow connected to military planes. Then we have over here, this is an interesting little group of cards over here. We have documents declassified. I'm assuming that would mean the Epstein files. So we're talking about declassified documents being the Epstein files, and we're seeing who has been keeping things quiet. Notice that these are all royal cards too. So notice who's been keeping things quiet and who has a supporting role in in the Epstein. To do with their role around and connections to Epstein. Maybe they're trying to keep this quiet, that person's participation or role There's 2 females in the royal family that I'm actually thinking here this could be. I wonder if we're talking about Fergie or Meghan, or are we just talking about somebody's role, support role, their connections to Epstein, coming out declassified information, what their duties were, what their role was, and what they've been trying to keep quiet. Maybe that will be released. Down China may be involved. China card just slipped out, so I don't know if China's involved over here on this one here. Okay, direction in the west. Pulling all the country cards here too. Seems to be a few countries involved here in tensions. I do have a card of tension heating up. Now, whether that means fire or whether it means tension heating up militarily. Now, something's going on here with Japan and the South. Maybe something connected to is such a thing as the South China Sea. Picking up like action in waters. Interesting. Okay, but what I'm gathering from that and what I'm picking up around that energy is that somebody's trying to get a rulership handover. So are we talking about Russia and Ukraine? Are we talking about something to do with China? Are we talking about Taiwan? Are we Bibi Netanyahu? Someone's suggesting a rulership handover, or they're trying to avoid military action. But then we see all these cards on the table talking about tensions heating up with different countries. So maybe little wars breaking out. It may not be full military action. I think they're trying to avoid military action at this stage. Maybe it becomes a bit of a crisis point. Okay, so the biggest things that I can see taking place in January would be some kind of suggestion of a rulership handover, somebody trying to make some kind of rulership handover to avoid military action. Lots of little squabbles and issues around different countries, Taiwan and China in the headlines. Something going on with Japan stepping in there. War is on the table there. Something big that's taking place around the Epstein documents and who's in that. Something about military planes and drones. So drone activity. So I'm feeling energy around water, boats in water, but that's not on the table. But what is on the table is military planes and sky agents or drones. So drone activity and tension heating up. So maybe when they're trying to make this negotiation or this sacrifice trade-off, there's betrayal that takes place. That's why I feel it doesn't go to plan. It has consequences, it creates a ripple effect, and they have to course correct or make a strategic pivot. Now over here we see some kind of crisis, maybe a health crisis we hear on the news, but maybe this becomes a crisis point because it's sitting so closely to each other. But we also have a pandemic, and then we have harmful compromise, we have a food shortage and corrupt dealings. Maybe this is just connected to the compromised food in the food industry. But you need to check corrupt dealings of why there's a food shortage of that particular type of food. So I'm going to leave that there. We'll see how we go for next year. A little bit of tension that is heating up there, but it's not. It's only like in trying to avoid crisis points, like more military action. Doesn't mean we won't see military planes or drone activity. Okay, let's just take a look at some of the things that happened in December. I'm just reading through some of the comments. I'll read out some of the comments of what's happening in your part of the world. I'll also take a look at some of the things that um, I know that happened. So let's have a look. The first thing was this morning, there was a small prediction that I made around a warning signal or some kind of, I said we're going to hear about some kind of warning alert system that is outdated and that will be on the headline news. Well, that was on my news this morning in the outback Australia. I think it was like inland Queensland. They had ordered some kind of new alert system for flooding because that area got flooded and the system was outdated. But on the news it says that they won't get that. It won't be delivered until 2028. So that was on the headlines. It was just a small prediction, but it was to do with outdated alert system, and that was on our media today. So a lot of things happened over the month of December. Something very interesting on the cards that was talking about imprisoned or detained, social control, rebellion or uprising. Now, we've got a lot of tension here in Australia to do with the rights of Palestinians and what's going on in their country and their uprising here in our country. Then we had the Bondi attack on the Jewish people at their Hanukkah festival. So that was a gathering of people. Now, what that has resulted in is a crackdown on social control and gun control here in Australia. We already have strong gun laws, but they've cracked down on those even more. So more control. They've used that event that happened and turned that into stronger gun laws here. But they're also talking about social control as well. They're going to be working over on those laws. But what did happen that was in the news was a man in Newcastle took his shirt off and he had certain far right tattoos on his body. He was arrested. So that did take place. So there's more control over social control, whether that's on social media and going after far right extremists. Even I don't know what the connection is with the shooters of Bondi and the far right. I'm not aware of that, but there is a crackdown on social media hate speech. So I'll leave that part there, but that has actually happened. Now, something else that's interesting in the December, I'm just taking a look at the clip of the video. Rulership handover was in December as well. So it feels to be one country pushing for a rulership handover of another. But it's in the cards again for January. So that's still being pushed in the background. Money changing hands there. Now let me read some of the other things that I wrote down that I predicted that happened. We had, let's see, putting it together. I said something about a submarine in waters of another country. You might hear about something around that. Well, we had Ukraine struck a Russian submarine with underwater drones. I didn't know there was. That's how much I know about um, military equipment. So it did say that Ukraine struck a Russian submarine with underwater drones. So I think that's connected to something going on with the submarine. I said something in the headlines around submarines in the Black Sea naval base, underwater drones. So that's the first attack of its kind. Russia denied the damage, but Ukraine released a video claiming the strike. Interesting. A Russian submarine entered British waters alongside a spy ship. I did say I felt either submarine or some kind of boats or water action in another country's waters. So Russian submarine entering British waters alongside of a spy ship. So we do have a little bit of interesting things taking place. Now, I said something about India being in the headlines to do with one of the predictions that was on the table because the card of India was there. It was the only country that came out. And it said, Indian president undertook a submarine sortie, non-conflict. India's president participated in a submarine sortie, I don't know what that is, at the Karwar Naval Base. Still on the topic of submarines and ships, we had Ukraine revealed it hit a Russian recon plane before sinking a submarine. December 15th. That was to do with the context of the December 15th submarine strike. So a little bit of submarine activity that did take place. I asked about natural disasters. I got air disaster, so cyclone or tropical cyclone, tornado. We did have one December 23rd, 24th, which is just this week here in Australia, in the Cocos Islands. We had another severe weather mentioned in late December, a bomb cyclone in the United States, tornado activity, Australian region, and a blizzard system in the US. Because I did say it's air related because it was an air card. I said the tornado card's already on the table, and then they showed me the air card for the natural disaster. So it was some kind of air system. So we had a bomb cyclone or a blizzard system, major one in a state of emergency actually in the US. So major headlines for India, because India was on the table. We had Putin's high-profile visit to India in December 4th to 5th. His first visit since the Ukraine war began. We had Parliament turbulence and Modi's challenge to opposition. Now that's interesting because on the table was some kind of pushing for rulership handover. Okay, I think that's what that was. So let me just read what that was all about. Prime Minister Modi publicly challenged the opposition to deliver, not perform drama during the winter session of Parliament. Opposition leaders push back. It's been adjourned amid demands for a debate. Okay, well, that's very interesting. Air pollution and voter list revisions were major points of contention. Well, that's very interesting because the cards did have air. Air was an important part of the readings in December. And I said that India will be aligned to any one of the predictions that's on the table. India crash highlighted in year-end coverage. That wasn't, though, December, I don't think. India dealt with major terror incidents in 2025. No, we're getting off topic here. I'm talking only about December. Interesting. So a few of the things did happen. What I do now is just scan down and have a look at the comments on that video to see what's going on in your part of the world. Stephen says that it could be describing a political situation that was taking place in the UK. Labor government trying to replace current Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So there was a bit of a push for a leadership handover. That is coming up again in January. So if that is the UK government, it's coming up again in January. There's still a push for a leadership handover. Other people are saying they would like to see Starmer gone. Labor corruption going on, been hidden for years. There was corruption, money corruption scandals in the December predictions. Rosie says definitely sounds like UK. Their energy of December felt like what was going on in the UK. Since the budget, £60 million black hole, forcing more taxes sky high. Turns out the government's lied. Yeah, that's been happening. That's happening here in Australia as well. In December, we had the release of where the taxpayers' funds are going when it comes to the travel budgets for politicians here in Australia. So they finally released the information. One of the trips took place was almost $100,000 for trips to New York, flying family members of a politician to New York. People in Australia don't even make that much in a year, and they're spending that on flying family members overseas, taxpayer money. So, yeah, but we've then had the Bondi attacks a couple of days later or within a week, and now everybody seems to have forgotten that headlined. So, I can relate to that here in Australia, but also they're saying it's relating to what is actually taking place in the UK as well. Um, Christine, talking about the government of Australia, illegitimate since 1975, when Whitlam unlawfully, a coup took off. This is connected to the Commonwealth of Australia. There are many people in Australia that subscribe to that. I don't really know too much about it, but thank you so much for your input there, Christine. Amy saying definitely sounds like the UK. Toxic air quality in India. So we have that toxic air was one of the cards that came out in December, toxic air. India also came out. So we're battling severe winter pollution, volcanic ash traveling from Ethiopia volcano. Added to the problem. Thank you so much for that, Ellie. That is really significant. I'm getting goosebumps. I feel it's very much connected to the prophecy of India and air pollution. It was the picture of the person with the air mask on. So thank you for that. I have no idea what goes on in with news like that. So thank you for filling me in on that one. Okay. Okay, we need to remember some things being investigated around grooming in London, pushing for justice. Um, okay, so let's see. Anthony suggesting, well, who does trust the government? I mean, after the release of the files about the travel, where our tax money's going, it really does eliminate trust for people that should be representing us and using our taxpayer funds wisely, which hasn't been happening. Also suggesting the royal change could be KC stepping down. I'm about to start the royal predictions. So yeah, let's see what they bring for 2026. Thank you so much, everybody, for your comments. There's loads of comments here, people telling me what's going on in their part of the world. We must have had a morality imbalance on the cards in December because Kerry is saying that we need justice for the homeless, and that immorality imbalance definitely talks about where funds go to allocated to certain things that are less important than other things. They have probably worked at some time to help with the Australian economy. It's way past time the government reciprocates and builds small homes for them. Mm. TX Plain Jane says, "Don't even get me started on the digital ID." Um, yeah, I get you. People all over the world better push against it. Not much happening on that front, and I'm afraid it just seems to get washed away by other events. But if you take a look closely, there's things happening, and there seems to be a push, and it's been coming up in some of the smaller predictions I've been doing each week. Business tycoon could be Buffett stepping back. Thank you, Roy. Okay, let's see. Kath? Questions being asked about all cash given to Ukraine and what happened to it. Thanks, Kath. Talking about Starmer. Kath from the UK. Thank you. Yes, Starmageddon. Yeah. Politicians need to be held accountable for what they do with our taxpayer funds. Sweetie is saying, "Love how giving feedback about the actual effects of individual regions around the world from to do with the readings." Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's important to have the perspective of people on the ground, boots on the ground. What's happening in your country, not what's on the mainstream news. What is actually happening in your countries? So important. To me, that's so much more important than what's actually the headline news. So I love reading through these. Let's see, we're seeing it shows me in Canada how it's affecting other regions. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. Susan, Just in, ICE is now stepping up their surveillance on all Americans, not just foreigners. Mm, interesting from the US. Curious Cat says there was a Russian submarine in British waters and they left a spy thing behind. Yeah, I just that was the one of the news articles that I just pulled up. So yeah, thank you so much for that. Curious. Jules is saying sounds like the UK. Susie's also saying I live in Staffordshire, and yes, it sounds like it's the UK. Okay, Dorian from the US is saying Trump, I'm assuming US, looking at firing the Fed leader. And is that Diamond or Simon? I'm not sure because I don't know the names of these people. Melon resign or resignation. West talking about Carney. Loads of comments. Thank you so much for all your comments, and I love hearing about what's going on all around the world, and I think the people are finding it very interesting as well. This saves you reading through the comments. Um, Xanders, I think maybe Charles will hand off the kingship to William soon. Interesting. I'm looking forward to getting through starting these royal predictions, which I do every year. Susie, who will become the next PM in the UK? I wonder if it's your leader that is the leadership handover. Dibaz, don't forget the Labor government here in Australia wants to reduce country road speed limits from 100 to 80, no matter the road. Supposedly to reduce carbon emissions. I wonder what else is behind that. I always look at any policies they're bringing in with skepticism. And what's the real reason for bringing in? And I also find it really interesting how they can push through some policies very fast. The gun laws got pushed through within a week or two of the Bondi event, but then other things they just lag. Thanks, Linda. Gorgeous backdrop. Okay, what this says, I'm not sure. There, Sarahan. Not sure how to pronounce your handle there. 2 Russian oil tankers were just hit by submarine drones causing damage. Thank you for that. I think that was one of the headlines that I just pulled up. Business tycoon. Could that be Trump involved in all of that? Money finance definitely fits with the finance videos. Okay, Lynn. 2 National Guard men were shot and killed near the WH about an hour ago. That's all Panassi could find to report on this time. Here we go. The government of Virginia is changing his statement. Story is changing with this governor. Okay. Politicians, you've got to love them. Will we see arrests in the White House? That wasn't on the cards in December, and it's not on the card. There was no arrest. There was an arrest actually in the cards for December, but I think it's connected to the Bondi, maybe because I don't think anybody else is mentioning arrests, but there was an arrest with the Bondi terror attacks. So I'm not sure, but there's no arrest coming up in the cards for January. Thank you for the hype, Kitty. Hi from Colorado. A 3i Atlas has a slightly changed course and now will be arriving at Jupiter's Hill radius perfectly where it won't get drawn into the sun or Jupiter's orbit. I wonder if that was connected to the January, what's come up in the January reading about sky activity. There's a changing course or a course correction. I can't remember the other card that came up with the with the rockets card or the sky activity. Let's see, I'm still reading through. Sorry about the dead air when I'm doing that. Okay, Cody says, "Did you catch the latest bombshell from Ukraine? Top officials, including Zelensky's chief of staff, are resigning amid massive corruption probe into 100 million kickbacks." There was money all over December predictions. It was some big thing connected to money. Was there arrest? Because there was an arrest card in, maybe it wasn't Australia, maybe it was Ukraine. So this is all unfolding against the backdrop of the fragile US-led peace talks with Russia. Could this unravel into a full leadership shakeup? Well, I think this is still going on into January, because that leadership suggested handover or pushing for a leadership handover is still going on in the month of January. But that really feels like it aligns there, Cody. The 100 million kickback scheme. It's money was all over the December predictions. Scandal money. Maybe Prince Andrew going to prison. Yeah, we'll see. I think I did a reading on him, and I think his punishment was losing titles. I don't know if he's facing any other charges. That was one of my questions that I asked in that reading. You speak so fast. I have to slow your speed down. Yeah, I do apologize. It is an Australian thing, but it's also a bit of a nervous thing for me. I do try to slow my speech down as much as I can. Sometimes when the messages are coming through, though, when I'm in trance state, I have to speak fast because the messages come in, and if I don't grab them straight away, I lose them. So I speed up to try and grab what's coming through. So sometimes that can't be helped. But yeah, that's a good idea, is slowing the speed down. Okay, people in the US hoping for Trump to stand down. I'm wondering which country it's going to be. Okay, we're getting very close to the end, I think, here. Super Earther has a feeling it sounds like the end of Zionism and the introduction of a one world government. Mm. One of the other prediction readings I done was stepping stones to do with the Bondi. I think it was my Bondi reading. It showed little things that were happening around social control, which has come up again in the January readings. Oh no, sorry, it was the December readings, but also in the Bondi reading. And it was just small stepping stones towards like a some kind of, I forget what the card is called, but it's where you have a different type of structure or the way that we live. So it's a different small stepping stones towards an agenda, towards a narrative. Yeah, all those little things that happen. So keep your eyes open, because the things that happen in the headlines, they happen for a reason. They happen because they affect policies that they're hoping to change. So we have to be very vigilant and have our eyes open to what's really going on with the headlines. Question everything. Keep your eyes open. A lot of people have their eyes open now. It's a little bit harder to fool people. Um, it's not so hard to distract people. So distraction is still a really big problem, I think. So you have to be really vigilant about where your attention goes as well. So keep in mind that with the prediction readings, they can be dark. They're dark because what we see on the headline, they're based on what we'll see in the headline news for the upcoming month. And usually what we see in the mainstream news is darkness. It's difficulties, it's fear-based energy. So keep that in mind. So after watching something like this, please do remember to shake it off, protect yourself, go out and reground, do something that lights you up again, like heightens your energy back up again. It's good to be aware of what's going on. It's good to be aware where things are false narratives. It's good to be aware of what could be possibly coming, but it is not good to hang on to that energy or to live into fear-based energy. So make sure you're not sitting in that fear-based energy. Let that energy go. Do something that you love. Do something that brings joy back to you and that puts joy energy back into the collective, because we don't need any more fear-based energy. The media does a pretty good job of putting that in the collective for us. So let's not contribute to that in any way. But it's good to be aware. It's good to have your eyes open about what's going on around the world. It's fantastic to have insights from boots on the ground, everybody around the world. What's happening in your countries? What do you think that's happening for? What's behind it? Rather than what we're just hearing on the media. So I think this reading the comments is really a significant part of predictions and collective energy when it comes to what's going on in your part of the world. But thank you for contributing, everybody, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next month.